Hi guys, welcome back. As you guys can see, a different scenery. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys what I feed my birds and also the ratio I feed my birds. Now probably the most important thing in raising pigeons is the feed I get, and this will determine if your birds are fat or not. Now in my feeding case it's pretty simple. This is my mixture that I give my birds. Now this is a typical mixture that us fanciers in South Africa feed our birds. As you guys can see, very simple. So not a lot in the feed. I will put what's in the feed on the screen. So this mixture is a mixture that I use, and I feed my birds this mixture right through the year. So it's a very simple mixture. I know a lot of successful fanciers do this. As you guys can see, there's some sunflower in there, not very much. As I said, it's a very simple mixture. It keeps the birds on a good weight. Now in this container there is feed for, I believe, 54 birds. In this one I'm feeding 15 birds. This is for my hens and this is for my breeding cockbirds. Now the way I determine how much to feed is just 1 tablespoon per bird per feeding. I feed my birds twice a day, so that means 2 tablespoons a day. And you guys are going to see when I go to the lofts, the birds always act if they are hungry, and I know my birds are getting the right amount of food because they are not overweight and they are not underweight. This is one thing only you as a pigeon fancier can determine. You have to handle the birds, something which I do quite regular, to see if they are underweight or overweight. And this is the best ratio for my birds. 1 tablespoon per feeding twice a day. And I must say my birds are looking very good. Their feather quality is much better than last year, and also their weight is at this stage so still a bit heavy, but the reason for that is because they're not training hard yet. So I'm gonna go to the loft and then I'll show you guys how they act. And this way my birds always act like this no matter how much I feed them, and you guys will see that your birds also will do this. And the reason for this is that raising pigeons is actually much more clever than we think. They know how to trick you, and they know if they're going to act hungry, you're going to feed them more. I'm not doing that. This is the amount my pigeons get in the morning and in the afternoon. Also, one thing that is very important is to feed your birds at the same time every day. The reason for that is you have to discipline your birds, and you will also see I'm not even going to call the birds, and they're going to know it's feeding time. They know these containers, so whenever I shake them, they know. So very important to stick to a feeding time. So I'm going to take these containers and then I'm going to go feed them. So I'll see you guys at the lofts. Okay guys, so I'm going to start off at the hen section. Just going to put these here. So I'm going to take the feed, try doing this with one hand. It's going to be quite difficult, I believe. So I'm going to sneak in here. Obviously these hens can't come out. Just going to grab the phone with the other hand. As you guys can see, the hens are pretty hungry. When I shake it, you guys can see they are actually getting more excited. So just going to throw in the feed. You guys can see trays are nice and full. Just going to lift the camera. Going to step outside. So there they go. So these hens are actually my breeding hens, and then some of these hens are actually racing hens, so their time is coming short. Someday they need to go back to the racing loft. So I'm gonna go to my cockbirds. There we go. As you guys can see, the cockbirds are a bit more wild. I'm gonna throw their feet in. There we go. Okay, so this is what I usually do when I come inside this loft. Is usually I feed the hens first, and then I feed the cockbirds. So you guys can see the cockbirds very calm, and that's because I actually overfeed the cockbirds a bit. So yes, let's go to the racing birds, and then I'll show you guys how they act. They are still little, so I'm gonna have to put the phone down just to feed them. Only one amount. So let's head to the racing loft. So you guys can see they are already waiting for me, and I didn't even whistle. I'm gonna feed them, and after I threw in their feed, I'll speak to you guys again. Okay guys, as you guys can see, let me just step over here. As you guys can see, these birds are really hungry, and these birds are actually active. So my birds usually in the morning they fly. This morning they didn't because the weather isn't very good. It actually rained the entire morning, so as you guys can see, some of them are actually, especially the little ones, going from one feeding tray to the next. But yes, usually what I look out for when feeding the birds is actually which birds go to the water first. Now usually what I picked up is it's usually the order birds. There he goes. He's usually the first bird every time when feeding, and this bird is actually one of my better racing birds, as you guys know. He was actually one of my best birds last year, actually one of my top 3. So that is something I actually also read about on the internet. The birds which usually go to the drinker first is usually the birds you should basket that weekend. Now I've been monitoring the birds for a while now, and he is usually my first bird at a drinker, so that should be a very good sign. Hopefully he's gonna fly very good this year, but as you guys can see, very quick. As I said, I don't feed these birds a lot, and the reason for that is they are already too heavy in my opinion. I'm not holding back feed, I'm feeding them the right amount, and as I said, they get exercise, so they are nice and full and also nice and light. As I said, only a bit heavier than I'd like. But yes guys, this is the way the birds act every day when they get feed. They act if they haven't been fed yet in like a week. But as I said, this is how birds act, and this is how they always will act, especially when you're flying short distance. On short distance, if your birds are too fat, then you're not gonna make the board. I know because I've learned that from last year. Last year I felt sorry for the birds, and yes, and on the short distance they were simply too fat, and unfortunately my birds didn't do very well. But this year I'm sticking to one feeding amount, no matter how hungry they look. As I said, when they are done, their crop is nice and full. As I said, these are athletes, they get fed twice a day, so feeding them more often and feeding them smaller meals is usually a very good thing. So that's what I'm gonna do. Also, when you see athletes, they also do that normally. But yes guys, that was me feeding all my birds and showing you guys my feeding method, showing you guys the amount I feed my birds. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.